is even greater to really get to there and see you all hopefully one day, which would be lovely. I will start with the classic, fad of the moment. I have a COVID poem. It's a different COVID poem to yesterday's COVID poem. So this is called Unicorns in Hyde Park. First, they closed the theatres. Actors folded Vogue-coloured satins into cardboard cases with Amazon smiles, packed away mirrors and light bulbs. It was as if all the world became a stage. The newsreader said everyone would have a part to play. Next, they closed the airports. The Stock Exchange Tower gathered rust in the corners of its windows, while Regent's Park became a patchwork quilt of picnic blankets. It was as if Australia was the other side of the world again. The newsreader said that cruise ships could be used as hospitals. Next, they closed the schools. Children forgot how to count to 1 billion, forgot the names of triangles with 130-degree angles, but it was as if they'd always known that a honeybee's wings beat 190 times per second. The newsreader said that dolphins were spotted leaping in Venice canals and that unicorns were striding through Hyde Park. Next, they closed the churches and the prisons. Society's sinners left groceries on the doorsteps of the breathless. Imams and pastors sang together from adjacent balconies. It was as if their lips had always known each other's songs. The newsreader said not to mention the falling crime rates because it wouldn't interest anyone. Next, they closed the television studios. Tribes of families took to the outdoors. Their bonfires lit up earth like a festival of iPhone flashlights. They boiled newly uprooted potatoes to an orchestra of chirping crickets and cockroaches. It was as if the insects celebrated a homecoming. The newsreader said something, but no one heard. As I said last night before going into, I do the poetry part-time workshops and anything vaguely poetry related, and before that I taught in a primary school in inner city Coventry, which I loved. But the frustrating thing for anyone I think who's been in education is not being able to teach what you would love to teach and having to sort of teach what you're told to teach, and this sort of sums up my feelings on that. It's called Progress Report. In the first term, I taught you how to kill sunflowers. We named the survivors anomalies, then passed round the bin bag. Percentages were skipped because they're only worth 1 mark, but we doubled up on fronted adverbials and paradigms, which impressed the visiting author because she'd never heard of them. The head treated us to the new cut and paste Oxford dictionaries because it meant you could spell celebrity without having to ask me, and it saved discussing the differences between magpies and ravens when you can just call them all birds anyway. In spring, I was meant to teach den building, but because it was spitting, we settled for using unsharpened pencils to scratch out our designs onto one dead tree of A4 each. After finishing early, I asked you to write a recount of your favourite parts of the year so far. In the whole class example, I began with the sunflowers, but the only adjectives you could suggest were nanoscopic and dilapidated. When I rolled my eyes and turned to Google Images, you gasped at the warmness of their petals, the cuddling seeds. You all agreed that if you ever saw one in real life, you would probably say they were quite beautiful. I'm doing a course at the moment with the Poetry School, which is brilliant. And we can recommend their courses. I've done a couple now. This one at the moment, we're looking at poetry in relation to museums. And our challenge for the first week was to take an object that we owned and write it as a museum article. It's a great fun activity, which if you're struggling for something to have a go at, then I can recommend that. It's good fun. So this is called Nan's Dressing Gown, circa 1983. And here we have a pre-21st century lady's dressing gown. Examine the exquisite embroidering of gold leaf shoulder pads, also the ingenious way the velvet captures all surrounding dust particles and stray hairs. Note the unique customization of orange bleach splashes, also the constellations of fag burns across the left side, most likely added during several invigorating episodes of Coronation Street mixed with dashes of Napoleon brandy. Pay special attention to the worn frontage, similar in size to a sleeping child. Also the twice repaired hem of one sleeve. Note the choice of navy blue cotton instead of the original black. And here, specs suggesting strawberry yogurt was a popular dessert. We believe the article was retired from service around 2016. However, evidence suggests that it was regularly removed from its drawer for several years after, possibly until the scent of homemade cheese straws and eternity finally dispersed. So thank you. It's like I was doing this last night. I forget to leave a space. It's lovely to see your smiling faces and clap. Thank you so much. This then is, and I'm going to try and avoid doing that thing where I explain what everything is before I do it. But we all have those people who have entered our lives at various points who we know are not helpful to have in our lives, and you just sort of spend your time thinking, please don't come back. So this is that really, the travelling of dandelion seeds. For years, I'd avoided areas of densely packed trees, expecting you to emerge from every horse chestnut, juggling conkers, your thin tongue licking a pointed smile. Today, you are on the wrong side of my 6-foot fence, sat cross-legged under the shade of my magnolia and fiddling with a confetti of decapitated tulips. You speak without bothering to look up. It's been a while, woman. Woman, the full-bodied consonants fill your mouth, too big to belong there. Each time I whispered my past into a stranger's ear, I worried you'd follow the trail of my syllables. Your hair has greyed, and when you shake your head, I'm reminded that dandelion seeds can travel for miles. This meeting has existed in 1,000 different forms. In one of them, I think you tried to say, sorry, but its letters dripped down your throat, your tongue stalled, and all that emerged was the confused gurgle of a toddler trying to form a new word. In today's version, you move towards me and repeat, it's been a while. The warm sour milk of your breath shrouds my face. I notice the pine needle hairs of your arms, your rain cloud irises, and how even the roses bend away from you. In today's version, you pass me a bouquet of slightly wilted four-leaf clovers. I fetch charcoal from the garage, throw your offering on the barbecue and light it. We watch from opposite sides as they shrivel. At some point, my eyes misplace you among the smoke. When it clears, all that's left is ash, the colour of question marks. I've enjoyed having a good chat with you, and I'm pleased to have a beach recommendation and hear you know how lovely that is. So thank you, Margaret. I will go away and Google that afterwards and add it. I'm going to have to come for like 3 weeks now with all the things that I've been told I can do in in your part of the world, which is fine. You know, any excuse, right? So apart from beaches, one of the other things I love is dinosaurs. So obviously fossils is a natural, you know, connection of those two, and I'm really interested. I was interested in the life of Elizabeth Philpott, who some of you may well know, some of you might not. Her very good friend, who was more famous than her now, was Mary Anning, and they used to go fossil hunting together. And Elizabeth Philpott went a bit on her own as well. And at that time, it wasn't the done thing, because not only was she a woman, she was single, and was quite happy being single. And she collected sort of dead fish. Really interesting. You know, I haven't done her life justice. She's very, very, you know, brilliant woman. So this was based on that idea really, and fitting tonight in the storm that we've got coming now and the heavy rain that will probably be here, maybe releasing some fossils somewhere. My scanning eyes spot ammonites in whirling sleep, alongside the flecked skin of serpentine pebbles. I leave these curiosities for other treasure hunters, the ones who can't believe that beauty takes the shape of a 500,000-year-old imprinted fin, long forgotten designs pressed by sediment and time, an Ossian rose petal between the pages of a book until rain comes. Father Casey says God doesn't like us looking back. He says my soul will become as cold as one of those dead fish. I tell him God scattered her sketchbook pages across our sands, printed her designs on tiny tablets, stored them in the stomach of her kingdom's cliffs. I tell Father Casey that there's glory in the rumbling call of charcoal clouds, and how freedom is a sprinkling of falling minerals. So last night I did one poem that was inspired by Alice in Wonderland, which always fascinates me because it's just incredibly insane and weird. And I think poets' brains are a bit like that. Mine is anyway. So I have many of these. I've got 3 with me tonight, where I just feature different females as different Alices, if you like. This particular one was written about the tampon tax. This is called Luxury Alice. Alice pushed the duster into tight green corners. Even when times had been tough, she'd refused to sell, content to starve among their cottony comforts. Everyone, she believed, deserved a little luxury. Some women opted for Italian handbags. Alice remained devoted to women's sanitation. 2 vintage display cabinets held most of her collection. Top shelves reserved for those with wings, bottom shelves for the heavy flow editions. A line of fluffy white mice with string tails posed on the mantelpiece. Spotlights enhanced sleek white curves of liners whose sticky backs were plastered along the feature wall. It was worth the expense, the additional taxes for moments like this. She squeezed one pudgy green packet, knowing that they were hers, always. Beauty advisor Alice. Catwalks across the store. Face demonstrates thick mascara sticks that pay her rent. No event would be complete without her. On fleek swish. Alice shapes arches better than God shapes rainbows. Takes late afternoon sips from Bros printed porcelain. A tea party would be nice, but White Rabbit really let himself go. Last time he arrived late and scabby-eyed, squatted centre table, tongue picked at crusty sores, plucking fur from its foundations and cowering when anyone said, beautiful. The final one I did last night and it's called Out of Luck Alice. Caterpillar was on his second cigar. Alice, down to her last fiver, watched hazy mists around her cloud her from underpaid rent and overpaid men. Smoke swirled into turning points around the stilettos the adverts told her to wear. Caterpillar motioned her over with 12 of his arms, offered her a pint in exchange for a picture. Well, thought Alice, it's only a picture. And maybe you think it's only a drink, but if you ignore your prejudices against Alices who rely on juices and half-smoked spliffs to assist in the fight against 2 small homes with windows that don't close, concrete gardens set on the margins of a society run by blue ties and the BBC who only ever feature where you're living when there's been a stabbing, then maybe you'll start to see where Alice is going. Caterpillar had 100 hands, asked if he could put just 3 on her lap in exchange for a full pack of fags and £10. Well, thought Alice, it's only a few hands out of a whole caterpillar of arms. Maybe you think it's only fags and a tenner, but if you've never lived with a fridge that's in the red and a bed that's a mattress on the floor with your last blood-spotted note rolled into the fetal position in your purse, then Caterpillar educated Alice about 5-bedroom yachts and where's best to stay in Vegas and how it's advisable to take lessons before you take to ski slopes. And would she mind coming back to his to lie naked on lettuce, blow smoke rings while he cocoons her in exchange for shoes better than those, a working credit card, weekend away? Well, thought Alice, it's only me. And maybe you think, but you don't, do you? You don't like to think about Alice. Cheers. I said last night, this is one that, out of my poems, this is the one I can claim has a vague link to your lovely country. My brother is the manager of Boyle Sports in Coventry City Centre. And I'll be honest, I mostly go in for the free hot chocolate, but it's a really lovely community atmosphere. So even though I spend very little, I can't walk past without going in and say, all right, Emilie, you know, how you doing? And it's great. So I had to write about it because it's a place that's just so wonderful. So I sat in there one afternoon, and with the bookies pens, and on the race card, you know, I wrote it on the back of that, and then when I got home typed it up as you do. So several of these people with names changed are real. Fortunately, the windows had been put in. There was an interesting incident where somebody had accidentally shot the windows out a few weeks earlier before this poem, but it was all fine. So this is Backstreet Las Vegas. The walls are papered with today's fixtures, corners curling towards the King Kong-sized Ryan Giggs spread across 4 TV screens. He's silently analysing a match we didn't watch. Max shakes his head. Never trust a man who takes his brother's wife to bed, he says. A flat cap holds Big Mike's spot as he fills another cup with instant caffeine. A walking cane and cold curry takeaway wait by the door. We almost forget how it feels to be lonely. Beardy Chris wears his new blue shirt that states he's proud to serve. The message hasn't made it to his face, but we like him anyway because he gives free credits and hates John Terry. Tony shows off her new trainers. There's a hum of appreciation when she says they cost less than a tenner. She wiggles them at the window, admires their silky smooth reflection in the new glass. We almost forget there had ever been bullet holes. Paper snowballs of old dreams litter the floor. We keep feeding our notes into this backstreet Las Vegas. Pirate roulette is soon due a payout, and when it does, we'll almost forget how it feels to lose. Until then, bingo 1.6 and signs mount, no one wins, to numbers no one's picked, but we still play because we know better than most that life is a lottery, and he's running at Limerick in the 8:53. And when you sat there and there's a dog called Life is the Lottery that's running in the Limerick at 8:53, then it has to go in a poem, doesn't it? That's just standard. This next one is called How to Pray. Every night we pressed our faces to the window, 2 full moons staring north across a pebble dash of homes. St. Christopher's Cross glowed from 4 postcodes away, its thick needles shining between the highway's skeletal trees. There is my cross, you'd say. Half a century earlier, you'd decided your penultimate act would be to find God and tell him he didn't exist. You hadn't expected to be interrupted mid-fish shake by 2 cups of tea and a vicar who wasn't looking to argue. You passed the story down to me like an antique brooch and taught me to pray to a skyline of parks and social clubs. The window has gone now, but I often press my face to that cold pane, looking for the golden glow of home. There is my cross, I say. Thank you so much again for having us. I've had the best time the last couple of days. It's been brilliant. I remember several years ago first going to see the Cork poets, and I went to when they were in Kenilworth, next to Coventry, and my dad was there, and on the way when we walked back home I went, I want that to be me one day. I want to be on that trip, because it's kind of like a rite of passage for Coventry poets. I think all the, like, you know, many of the people I admire from our area have done this. So and it has absolutely lived up to the expectation, even in its virtual form. You're so lovely, all of you. I've enjoyed chatting to you at the start of this and last night, so thank you so much, genuinely. And I will finish with this one, which went down out of all of them when I looked back at the comments, because it's hard to do that while you're speaking. Out of all of the poems, this is the one that that people really seem to enjoy very much. So I thought I would finish with this tonight. It's based on, I have to tell the story behind this one, because it is again based on a true story, and I think if I didn't say that, it would be so unbelievable that someone would say this, that it would seem like I'd made it up. So I'd gone to the gym, which I don't do too often, because, you know, because it's not good, is it, to go too often. So I'd done my exercise bit. I ticked that off, and what I was really there for, as you know, is hot chocolate and a cake, because I'd earned it. you know, I'd probably got twice as much as I'd actually done, but that's fine. So I'm in the queue for my cake, and this woman queue jumps in front of me, which was, you know, I don't like rudeness, but I also can't deal with confrontation. So I was in an awkward position then. So I did, you know, the British thing loudly so that she would hear, and she would have to initiate the confrontation. And she just turned around, looked straight at me and said, "I think I should go first, don't you?" Which infuriated me, but I let her go first and just thought, "You're going to be in a poem." And she is, and here it is. So thanks again for having me, and I'll finish on lessons in how to queue. "I think I should go first, don't you?" I'd been considering which overpriced oatcake to choose as you slipped into the half space in front of me. My stuttering reply dies as you repeat, "I think I should go first." I nod. "You should go first. You should go first because you pay a monthly direct debit to this gym instead of using a free guest pass that you picked up in the community centre raffle. You should go first because the woman serving has smiled at you from across this counter for over 2 years, and her daughter looks a little bit like your daughter. You should go first because you are branded with designer sweatbands and own a keyless car that you remember to vacuum before it looks like it needs it. You should go first because when you call your dog's name in the park, he comes back to you instead of digging up the children's play area. You should go first because you know they're called gilets, not body warmers. You can spell pretentious without having to Google it, and can bake banana bread without needing to look up the recipe. You should go first because you got married on a sunny day with a brass band and honeymooned in Cape Verde instead of mistaking it for a type of pasta at a pub quiz. You should go first because you remembered to wear a blue dress on polling day, and you've never got changed in a train toilet or come home looking like that girl off the drink aware advert. You should go first because you have lavender liners in your underwear drawer, and your nasal passages recognise the floral tones of Dior but have yet to experience Oxfam's washing powder. You should go first because shops sell keyrings with your name on them, and people pronounce it without assistance, and the man at Starbucks writes it correctly on your cup. You should go first because you know that Manet did portraits and Monet did flowers. You know which knife to use first at dinner parties, and that people who get stopped by police must deserve it. You should go first because you had skiing lessons when you were 6, and ever since you've known that life's a bespoke slide for you to traverse. So you should go first because when the others in this queue look between me and you, they already know all of these things. They know who goes first. Thank you so much. It's been lovely. I'm really looking forward to hearing Matt as well and the open mic. Thank you.